Welcome back. We'll take a trip to Imo State, where about 2 weeks ago, the government decided they wanted to, as they say, clean up the system. According to them, 19 parastatals, agencies, and departments were not living up to par. They were not productive. That's what they found out after they carried out what they called a productivity audit. I think that's what they called it. And so they were shutting down about 19 parastatals, agencies, and departments. That would effectively affect about 3,000 workers. While some news organizations have said they were sacked, the government has said they were only suspended because some concessionaires will come in and work out a system where this staff would be more productive or where some of them would have to be redeployed. Well, the back and forth continues, and we're hoping that we can get answers. We do have in the studio a Labour leader, Nigerian Labour Congress leader, Joe Ajaero. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, my brother.
Also in the studio is Ikenna Ene, technical advisor to the Imo State Governor. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, but my name is pronounced E-M-E-H, Eme.
Ikenna Eme.
Eme.
Yes. Okay, not Ene.
No.
Ikenna Eme. That sounds like as if you're from Cross River Quite. Okay. Thank you for joining us. All right, gentlemen. So what's the situation?
The situation is, as you rightly said, the consequence upon the productivity audits conducted by the state government. Government came to the conclusion that in the light of the exigencies of the time, that there's need for us now to make a transition from governance as a philanthropy to governance as a business model. We decided to suspend workers in some selected parastatals. We are convinced beyond that, consequent on the audit we have done, that they are not delivering the right service for which Imo people are paying for. It's not every parastatal that we are affected. Those who we are convinced beyond doubt, we suspended the staff of those agencies, pending the concession to allow the concessionaires to take over the operations of those agencies. This matter has been been challenged by Labour, who are saying we have sacked them. But nobody, I can tell you on good authority, has sacked any worker. They have painted the impression and picture that my governor is anti-people, anti-worker. But then the fact speaks for itself. When you know this antecedents and where it's coming from, my governor is the first governor to declare his acceptance to pay 20,000 as against 18,000 normal minimum wage. As I speak today,
is he paying the 20,000?
As of today, the minimum wage in Imo remains 20,000. During the negotiation for Congress and Commerce, my brother Ajay will also confirm that my governor was the first person to declare his intention to pay Congress and Commerce. As I speak to you today, we still pay Congress and Commerce. My governor is the only governor that gives workers 2 weeks holidays during Xmas period to enable them celebrate their Xmas like big men. The Imo workers resumed work on 11th of this month. Against this antecedent, how can you say that the governor is now anti-workers just because we decided to enhance the productivity and service being rendered to Imolites by suspending the activities of some parastatals? I want you to put me on good authority. We have never sacked any worker. We suspended operations of the affected parastatals pending the concessionaires taking over. I want any worker who has been sacked to bring his sack letter.
Okay. Joe, what is the opinion of Labour about all this?
Well, I think we have some governors who had never worked anywhere before. And if you have not worked anywhere before, you won't understand the operations in a parastatal. You won't understand the procedure on employment or labor management relationship. As he was talking, the issue we suspended, kept on reoccurring as if we were in a military dictatorship. No governor has the right to unilaterally suspend workers. Now, in those days and up to now, people prefer to work in a public service with 10,000 instead of working in a private sector with 20,000 salary, because they enjoyed, those jobs enjoy statutory flavor.
Security.
Security. You can't sack the person, without going through the process. You query that worker, set up ad hoc, and the ad hoc, the condition of service stipulates whether the punishment will be suspension, whether it will be termination, and whether it will be dismissal. These things are provided. It's not like they work there without recourse to any law. Now, when you now hear that a governor said he woke up, he suspended how many parastatals? How many of the parastatals declare their profit every year? And then you create unemployment, for thousands of people, and you say you love workers. You love workers and you give them 2 weeks for Christmas and you didn't pay salary. And you say they should go and enjoy for 2 weeks. I don't want to go personal on this issue, but I am saying that aspect of concession, we ask the concessionaire or whatever to take over.
But what's wrong with concessioning a parastatal or agency you feel is not being productive?
Why not declare redundancy? Now, before you treat such matters where workers are working and you feel they are not productive again, you invite the union. And I'm telling you the position of the law. Now, you say, this place, we are going to close it down. How many workers are there? You people negotiate their entitlements before it happens. Now, you don't announce over the radio that I have suspended this, and there are people working in those places.
Are you saying that the union was not carried along in this discussion about concessioning these parastatals?
No, he never.
Okay.
Can I just
one sec, I'll come back to you. The union was not carried along, you say?
No, the workers were not.
Okay. Mr. Eme,
Yes, please.
first of all, you said the government decided to move away from a governance of philanthropy.
Yeah.
So
Philanthropy.
are you implying that before now,
They were.
the governance system in Imo State has been about philanthropy, so they're just giving out monies anyhow?
When a government decides to carry any type of workforce, whether productive or not, the government is engaging in philanthropy, and they've abused the good nature of the governor because he's a man who is so much at home with the downtrodden. Let me give you an instance of.
Hold on, before you give your instance. When the governor came on in the first term, there were about 10,000 workers that were employed by the previous government, and he had to let them go because, according to the statement, it was the process of employment
that was politically induced and motivated.
Okay. So now with this 3,000 now, he is saying that labor was not carried along in this conversation.
Thank you very much. Let me use the health sector as an example.
No, was before you go. Was labor carried along?
That's what I'm trying to do. Yes, I'm trying to lay a background. From day one, that labor opposed does not mean that they were not carried along. A government will inform labor what they need to do. That labor said no does not mean you will not go about and do what you think is right for the people.
Hold on. Yes. The words he used were negotiate.
When you come to a negotiating table, for goodness sake, and labor says, I am fiercely opposed, we don't want.
Do you also consider why they are opposing that?
Yes, that's why I wanted to give you a background. I want to use the health sector as a background. When government proposed the idea of trying to concession services being rendered by Health Services Management Board in 2012, I had the benefit of being in the House of Assembly by then. I was one of those who was alarmed and embarrassed. I said, government cannot concession services.
Okay, you said government cannot concession services?
Yeah, that was my view then. As an honorable
So what changed your view?
No, that's why I'm coming. You're in a hurry. So when government brought the statistics of unproductivity, the House of Assembly decided to set up their own committee. That committee was a bipartisan committee of 9 honorable members. I happened to have the privilege of having chaired the committee. We went on a facility inspection tour of all the general hospitals in Imo, sometime in 2012. It was HAB, that bill was HAB 42 or thereabout. What we saw was an eye-opener. And the statistics presented by government was even porous, because we came with better statistics of non-performance consequent upon this. But at that time, we engaged labor. Labor's concern, which I share with them, is that this concessioning will lead to job loss. So what we now did in the concessioning law was to make a proviso that if any worker was unable to be engaged or retained by the concessionaire, that worker will remain in the employment of government. If government so elects, he can sever the person to go away. With that one, I'm sure that labor's interest has been articulated cut out for. What neighbors should now ask us, how do we?
The health sector.
Yes. Yeah. This was relative to that particular one.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
There was something that you raised, Mr. Ajero, and please correct me if I'm wrong. The impression that I got is that you can only be suspended when you have committed an offense.
As far as
Is that the impression you...
as far as you're a public sector worker,
Yes.
or a civil servant,
So
you can
an employer cannot just wake up and say you are all suspended.
No, you can't.
I have to have done something that deserved that as a punishment.
God bless you. And I received query for that.
A number of times.
No, apart from even which will give me the chance to explain my position on it. Now, if you are now talking of government policy
Yes.
that will affect jobs there, now you declare redundancy. And I want the Federal Ministry of Labor to come in here and you invite the unions and they discuss how it will affect jobs and what will happen.
Okay.
So this was not done.
So suspension, sack,
Termination, dismissal, whatever.
They cannot apply to this stuff we're talking about.
Following due process.
Okay. So his grounds now is that the action of the Imo State government did not follow due process.
And he knows
Thank you. My senior brother Ajero is misconceived on the terms of the situation. We have not